Welcome to another episode of Chasing the Wind. Don't you love my background? Look at that. The kite is flying. We cannot see the wind. We can only see evidences of the wind. And flying a kite is one of them. So go fly a kite. No, don't go fly a kite. Well, fly a kite, but not for the reason we normally think of go fly a kite. Hey, I want to talk to you about growing in wisdom and knowledge and stature and learning. I heard the other day I was zipping through YouTube. My wife and I do not have cable or dish, so we watch YouTube videos. I'm a YouTube junkie, watching stuff, learning, having to say, is that really true or not? Anyway, because if it's on YouTube, it's got to be true. So anyway, I was on there the other day and I heard this guy talk, and he kind of does a podcast. He's a life coach, does a podcast, and he said something that really intrigued me. And that was this. He said, most people have not read a book since they graduated high school. Wow. I can remember when I was just a tad, my mom would always sign me up for a summer reading program at the library. And, I would always have good intentions that I was going to do it. But then there was these things called beautiful days that were supposed to be used for play, not sitting around reading a book. So I did not do well. Not the biggest bribes that my mom could come up with would not get me to read a book. But then when I was in my high school years, I started working for a harness horse trainer. The buggy horses, the ones that pull the little carts behind them, the sulkies. And so I really got into that. And all of a sudden, I was reading everything I could about harness racing. And it was interesting to me because I learned when I was at one of my churches, we were showing the kids some cartoony kind of Jesus video, and they're talking and carrying on. I'm like talking to the children's guy. I'm like, they're not listening. He goes, Mark, just don't worry about it, Pastor. They know what they're listening. They're listening. They're talking. They're cutting up. He goes up and asks them questions, and they answered every one of his questions. Here's what's interesting. Now I'm further along in my educational career, and I remember things that I heard in junior high and high school from my English classes and stuff. I'm like, you're like I before E except after C, and you don't start a sentence with the word to, and to say that this is, you don't do that, and you don't end a sentence in a preposition, and all those. They start coming back to me. It was amazing to me. It's like all of a sudden my teachers were smart and they knew something. But that troubled me, people, when I heard this gentleman say that most people have not read a book since high school. And he says that means that the majority of the people running around have the intelligence, the education anyway, of an 18-year-old. So, coming from a guy who had never planned on going to college, let alone having his doctorate, one of the things that I have before we had Kindle and all this stuff, which I still like to have a good solid book in my hand. I don't, I've read Kindle stuff. It's fine. I like a book in my hand. I used to read probably 30, 40 books a year. And that's tapered off a little bit now. But now what I find myself is watching, like I said, YouTube videos. There's things I don't know how to do. You can pretty much learn how to do anything on YouTube. And if you watch enough of them, you kind of figure out, okay, that's probably not going to work. This is going to work, that sort of thing. Here's my point. There should be no reason for any of us. That's a pretty bold statement, I know. But, I have my master's in Christian education, and so I understand there's different learning styles. Some of you watch videos like this and say, wow, I really never thought about that, Pastor Mark. But if you were to sit down and read Randy Maddox's Wesley's Practical Theology, you'd say, man, I don't understand a word of this. It doesn't matter. But then you can hear someone and they put it in words, and it's like they say it in just a certain way, and it's like, boom, you get it. That's okay. You can watch something, you can read it, whatever, however you learn, it doesn't matter. But here's the thing that is troubling. And I've said this many times, write your theology with a pencil with a very big eraser. But my concern is that we don't even get the pencil or the eraser out. And I'm not just talking about theology. My Chasing the Wind last week was about Oholiab and Bezalel and how they were skilled craftsmen. You know, we may not be the most skilled craftsmen, but we can learn a few things. Never stop learning, people. Ask questions. Ask questions. What are you doing there for? How does that work? What's that? Oh, I get it. Yeah, that's cool. How neat is that? Get people around you who know some stuff and say, hey, would you teach me how to do this? Now, of course, one of the best teachers is experience. You try something, it didn't work. What you learn from that? Dave Rodeo always used to ask me, what you learn from that, Mark? I used to get so upset with him. Quit asking me that question, Dave. I don't want to hear it. But here was something that drove me when I went to college. And I was scared to death to go to college, people, because I had no college prep courses. I'm like, what am I here for? To learn. There's an idea. So in Proverbs chapter 4, by the way, I love what Dave Ramsey says in this. There's something, whether you like him or not, it's irrelevant. But he did say this. I heard him say this one time, and it just one thing that stuck with me. He goes, if you read a proverb a day in a month, you'll be a smarter person because you've read the Proverbs. There's some good stuff there that is timeless. Here's one of them from Proverbs 4. And it is subtitled, Wisdom is Supreme. And so here's how the writer of Proverbs, probably Solomon, said this. Listen, my sons, to a father's instruction. Pay attention and gain understanding. I give you sound learning, so do not forsake my teaching. When I was a boy in my father's house, still tender and an only child of my mother, he taught me and said, lay hold of my words with all your heart. Keep my commands and you will live. And this was a verse. The next verse is the verse that kind of kept me going when I was in college. Get wisdom and understanding. Do not forget my words or swerve from them. Then do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you. Wisdom is supreme. Therefore, get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding. What does the saying go? Whenever we lose a person in their 70s or 80s, we've lost a whole encyclopedia of knowledge. Wow. Wow. I've often said to people, I've heard young pastors say, I got to get rid of all these old people in my church. They're just holding us back. And I tell them? I said, here, don't be stupid. I just tell them, don't be stupid. I'm at the age now I can say that, okay? Don't be stupid. Those old people that you're so concerned about are faithful givers. They are wise. They have walked with the Lord for a long time. If you just show a little support to them, they will support you like you wouldn't believe. Now you run into the occasional one who won't. But what I have found is that a lot of older people have been very patient with me through the years and allowed me to make mistakes, been there for me when I made them, helped prop me up and say, okay, let's try something else, Pastor. Do not get rid of all that wisdom, because they teach you how to follow the Lord. Matter of fact, you know what? We just finished up with Holy Week. We don't do this too much anymore, but washing of feet. You know what? Some of you need to wash the feet of some older people in your church. Figuratively, you may even want to do it literally if they'll let you. But here's what we need to understand is we need to understand that there's older people who will uplift you in prayer, young pastor, and go ask them to pray for you. Just a little bit of a nod in their direction, and you will have their support. You don't want to get rid of them. You don't want to get rid of them. There's so much to learn from the old saints. And there is so much to learn from each other. I was told recently that I'm not middle-aged anymore. I'm on the high side of middle age, or early signs of old age. I'm not sure. I really don't care. I just know this. I have to go to younger people sometimes to learn how to do some things. And you know what? That's okay. It gives me an opportunity to connect with them and to learn a few things, especially like, social media and all that good stuff. How do you do this? And they just help you. And they want to help you in many cases. Yeah, they might huff and puff at you a little bit, but that's okay. Let them huff and puff. They need to remember that someone changed their diapers not too long ago. Here's the bottom line, people. We can learn from each other. We're here. We're in this together. And now more than ever, people, we need to be in this together. So I am going to leave it right there. Do not stay stuck. Yeah, but that book is like 100 pages. Yeah, that's a small book. Okay? That's nothing. I read books that's the introduction is 100 pages. Okay? So no one says you have to read it in one setting. It's like people say, oh, the Bible's so long. You know what? It's all got to be covered. Just read it. Just start reading it. There's Bible apps that you can read the Bible in a year, and all you got to do is follow. I read the Gospels in the first 90 days of the year. You know what? That'll give you a good idea of the life of Christ if you just read the Gospels. Start there. Start somewhere. Get a book. Go see your pastor. Hey, your pastor's got a bunch of books sitting there that he's read. He isn't reading them again. Just say, hey, you got a book I can read? It's like the one pastor said, my books are too valuable to loan out. Another pastor said, my books are too valuable not to. So here's the thing. Find a book and talk to your pastor about it. Start reading. Read something. I just loaned a book to my neighbor on the Revolutionary War. Find a topic that you enjoy and start reading about it. Read the owner's manual to your lawnmower or something. Figure out, what do I do with this? But keep growing. Keep your mind sharp. And if that doesn't work for you, watch a YouTube video. Share this video and say, hey, here's something you need to hear. There's all sorts of good stuff being put out there. So you know what? And filter through the bad stuff too, by the way. So anyway, I'm going to leave it right there. I am Pastor Mark. Keep chasing the wind because the wind is chasing you. Keep learning, growing, and stretching. Till next time, I'm grace and peace to you.